Hiya.
Hello, how are you?
Not too bad.
So,
Let's talk about sex. Myth number 1. It will be perfect and you will rock their world.
while the first time having sex can be fun, it can often be a bit disappointing and not as you expect it. This can be due to a lot of reasons. Anxiety, you might have a lot of alcohol in you, and you might know the person and what they really want. I think that rockin' world comes with experience, being generous with your attention, and then checking what the other person likes and what they're comfortable with.
Yeah, and I think it takes time as well. You know, some research and some reading can be very useful as well. We're not born with the knowledge of how to pleasure other people and how to pleasure ourselves.
Exactly. Myth number 2, there will be orgasm and ejaculation.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do think that with every sexual encounter, you know, it does have to end with ejaculation. You know, I think porn's a lot to blame for that, you know. Because actually facts say that only 17% of women actually do orgasm from penetrative sex.
Seriously?
Yeah, most women require clitoral stimulation.
I thought it was going to be way higher.
Myth 3, it will be a life-changing experience.
While the first time you have sex can be profound, it doesn't necessarily mean that it will be life-changing, and as a result of it, you'll become really mature and wiser after it. Although that's how a lot of literature and movies would portray that, that's often not the case.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think a lot of movies and books kind of, you know, present that idea that the first sexual experience has to be, you know, amazing and profound and this kind of, you know, transforming experience, you know, which it doesn't necessarily always, you know, happen to be.
Yeah, of course. I feel like you can become an adult without having sex. It's not the actual act of sex that makes you wise, mature.
Yeah, I think being a grown-up involves, you know, a lot more than just, you know, having sex and, you know, losing your virginity.
Completely. Myth number 4, it will bring us closer.
Yeah, I certainly think that, you know, sex can bring a couple closer, but I think only if you have the emotional maturity, you know, between you both to be able to understand, you know, the feelings you're having and the intimacy you're having, you know.
Yeah, and also if you do want to talk about the experience and how it might have affected you, that if you're not close enough with that person, that maybe do with anyone, like do with a friend who might have more experience in that, or just somebody that you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, I think as long as you talk to someone, you know, you trust and you feel you can confide in, you know, that's the most important thing, really.
Yeah.
Myth 5. Everyone else is doing it, just get it over with.
It's not like virginity is something to be getting rid of, and a lot of people haven't had sex yet, but people just assume that they have. Often a lot of people that haven't had it just wouldn't say it to anybody, so a lot of people would just assume that that person hasn't sex. Yeah.
I think a lot of people feel like they need to rush into their first sexual experience as well. You know, there's a lot of pressure on people our age feeling like you need to get rid of it, you know, and I think that doesn't leave much space, you know, for fun or for sensuality either. Like.
Yeah, I read an article recently and it said that millennials have the least sex in any generation, which is weird.
It is weird.
You know? Myth number 6. You can't get pregnant or get an STI the first time.
I find it amazing that people think you can't get an STI or get pregnant the first time you have sex, because in reality STIs are very common and they're rising. The most important thing is just use a condom, I suppose. If you add lubricant to your condom, it's 99% effective, so...
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's really important to go to STI clinics.
Get checked regularly.
Yeah, and symptoms can often show later, so you're better off just getting yourself checked and making sure you're alright.
Absolutely. Yeah, when it's so easy to get checked, why would you risk any long-term consequences? Myth 7. You have to look the part.
Although fashion surrounding hair and women is changing, so it's more of a bushier look nowadays, there is still a lot of anxiety surrounding how people feel, you know, about their looks during sex.
Yeah, and I think it's the same with men as well. I think porn has a huge influence in that regard. I think a lot of men feel like they, you know, need to have this hairless, six-pack, super toned kind of body, you know, that's not achievable for everyone, really.
And you don't want to miss out on having sex just because you're a bit worried about like an ingrown hair or like how do I look like in a certain position.
I think it's about, if you focus on, you know, trying to, you know, pleasure yourself and pleasuring your partner, that can cause a much more enjoyable experience.
Myth number 8. You have to know what you're doing.
As people like don't usually disclose their lack of sexual experience, it often happens that people, you know, think the other person knows exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, it's really about assumption, isn't it? Like,
yeah, I think the best approach really is, you know, being curious and being honest, you know, communicating with each other what both of you enjoy and what both of you like.
Yeah.
Myth 9. There has to be penetration.
Movies and books tend to present the pinnacle of the sexual experience just involving penetration, when often this isn't the case. Like, for example, let's just say in porn, if there's lesbian porn, that often it can begin with lesbians and then just go to straight sex of penetration. It's actually amazing that they are myths, you know, that people actually take the 9 things we listed there as facts.